doesn't this bring us to the whole question of guidelines anyway? Jeff, have the treatment guidelines changed to incorporate the immunotherapies, and how does this differ from what payers will reimburse for and have been reimbursing for? You're asking for proof that this is the right patient for this therapy.
Well, the NCCN guidelines now incorporate IPI or a clinical trial for melanoma as your frontline choice, or a targeted therapy if you're BRAF mutated, right? So we have a predictive marker now for our BRAF drugs. Do you have a genetic change in your tumor? That's a predictive biomarker. If you don't have it, the drug is not going to work, and not only that, it could hurt you. So the NCCN guidelines, which most of the payers, as Mike's is, are following, we think that's fair and reasonable. The unspoken issue, though, with immunotherapies is most of them are investigational. And with respect to a payer covering it, in different states of the union, in this country, some of them will cover research-related costs and some of them will not. It's a complete patchwork. It's unpredictable and difficult.
Let's be very clear. It's not Aetna's money that Aetna's spending. Aetna is the administrator for employers who have self-insured plans. They're the payers. Aetna's asked to administer the plan. That's 2/3 of Aetna's business. It varies by payer. The other third is people who pay premiums out of their pocket. So you are paying for ineffective therapy today. And the responsibility of Aetna is to try to decide whether evidence supports all of us bearing that cost burden, or supports the self-insured plans of bearing that cost burden. And so we have a fiduciary responsibility to you, if we're your insurer. Actually, I think we are.
You are.
Be very careful how you talk to these people.
Yes. It's in my wallet.
Or that of the self-insured plan. And the government has the same fiduciary responsibility. So I think the issue becomes one of, let's be fair. I mean, there are mechanisms that are built to answer research questions. The insurance industry isn't the methodology to answer a research question, but most payers and most national payers, as long as the self-insured plan agrees, do pay for research that meets certain criteria, right?
But let me nail this down a bit. Despite, I'm told, some clinical guidelines, which are really very clear, there are some payers that are not paying, and they're forcing providers not to give what are guideline-related therapies. How do you account for that?
So you'd have to give me a specific example, and I would say to you that I am asked occasionally to review the evidence base for our coverage policy regarding therapies. And I would say, Aetna has an evidence shop that does nothing but it. The guy who does it, in my opinion, he's brilliant. I mean, because he really does a very, very good job. And if it's a cancer-specific issue, he will come to me for content. And I think he tries to be fair.
But Peter, look at the guidelines. The NCCN guidelines for melanoma say, first choice, front line, a clinical trial would be up there with immunotherapy or a targeted therapy for BRAF mutated. Yet, as Mike himself pointed out, the coverage decisions for going on a phase 2 or a phase 3 clinical trial can be very inconsistent.
So is this where the hoops come in, the additional hoops, the additional paperwork, the additional check boxes that providers are being forced to check off?
People who pay the bills can make the decisions what they're going to pay for. And that's just the way it is. And so CMS has decided they'll pay for usual and customary in research, and that's fine. But remember what a big deal that was when that finally got approved. And so I think every single payer has to deal with that, and they have to face Moffitt and say, Moffitt, do you want to pay for research or not? Moffitt does want to pay for research. But all I'm saying is you have that discussion with every single plan.
So it's not unreasonable if what you're looking for is to move forward into kind of a gray area, to ask for more proof, to ask for more paperwork, to ask for more hoops to jump through, to be sure that the entire system keeps going along.
I personally think it is, yes.
Do you agree?
I mean, in a perfect world, we wouldn't need that, but I think we're recognizing that this is where we are. We're in a dynamic state right now. And what Mike points out is that it's a very heterogeneous state. And I don't think there's going to be a simple solution to get away from paperwork. I mean, we're inundated with paperwork, in every aspect of our lives, including our professional lives. And payers is just one other aspect of it. But I think that at the end of the day, there are ways to streamline it and whatnot. There are policies, but these are such individual cases when it comes down to an individual patient in a clinical trial, their eligibility, the appropriateness, the alternative options, et cetera. There's no way to really have a set policy without being able to have, sort of individual review of those cases.
So by the way, you realize that we're all